Godzilla's screen time needs to be steadied in the Monsterverse. Have you ever wondered how much screen time Godzilla has in every movie and TV show that he appears in so far in the Monsterverse? I took one for the team and I went through all of the Monsterverse films that have Godzilla in it, all of the screen time between Godzilla 2014, Godzilla King of the Monsters, Godzilla vs. Kong, Godzilla X Kong the New Empire, and even Monarch of Monsters. The point of Godzilla's screen time is to simply focus on Godzilla only. So the only screen time I do count is anything that relates to flashbacks, Godzilla fighting other monsters, or simply is just in the same scene as another monster. Godzilla by himself, of course. Even if humans are in the same frame as Godzilla. Now, the only time that I don't count Godzilla's screen time is if it's stock footage from previous Monsters films into the next one. If you're someone that doesn't know what stock footage is, here's a perfect example.
This is what I'm talking about. See? Why would I count that again?
So, with that being said, let's dive right into this and see what this all means for the Godzilla fans.
Let's start with Godzilla 2014, the movie that birthed an entire franchise later on down the line. And so it makes you wonder, how much screen time did Godzilla get in Godzilla 2014? That total amount is 10 minutes and 31 seconds to be exact. And here's how. Starting with the opening scene, we see Godzilla roaming around Bikini Atoll before the nuke goes off on him. And you get to see Godzilla for a good 15 seconds here. Not bad, right? The next time we end up seeing Godzilla is when he is on his way to Hawaii to go after the male Muto. He causes a tsunami. We see that beautiful entrance by Godzilla with that awesome roar. And we also get to see the fight on the news feed for a little bit. The whole sequence of Godzilla in Hawaii only lasted for about a minute and 23 seconds. Then we see Godzilla in the daytime being followed by the Navy, but he ends up changing courses to San Francisco because now the Miyamoto is headed over there. So this sequence lasts for 28 seconds. Godzilla is then seen eventually showing up to San Francisco, but goes through the Navy and then eventually plows his way through the Golden Gate Bridge and finally makes it to meet up with the Miyamoto to a fight. We could have had a daytime fight, but nope, cock block. So this sequence alone only lasts for 1 minute and 48 seconds. We finally get to the final fight of this film. We end up seeing Godzilla fighting the Miyamoto and the female Muto. We watch him get jumped for a little bit. We also witness him using his atomic breath for up to 3 times total in this film. We also see him kill the Miyamoto before a building collapses on him. Godzilla then becomes a ninja and sneak attacks on the female Muto and ends up using the kiss of death on her before collapsing again due to being exhausted. The entire final fight alone from Godzilla's point of view was only 5 minutes and 11 seconds. Godzilla is presumed to be dead by the time we get to the end of this film, but eventually does wake up and just slowly goes back to the ocean and says peace out. This final sequence alone only lasts for 1 minute and 27 seconds, thus giving us that total of 10 minutes and 31 seconds in total from Godzilla's point of view in Godzilla 2014. We thought there wouldn't be any more Godzilla, but that wasn't until Monarch of Monsters in 2015, 1 year later. Yes, this TV series came out in 2023, but in terms of the actual timeline, yes, this does occur in 2015. Godzilla was only in this for a total of 4 minutes and 18 seconds altogether throughout all of season 1. Starting with the flashback sequences, we see Godzilla once again back in 1954, right before that nuke goes off. Godzilla's only in this for 40 seconds straight. 2 years later, in 1956, Godzilla is spotted, confirmed to still be alive and well. This is when he was on Hate Rima Island, better off known as Monster Island. This scene only lasts for 24 seconds. We see our last flashback back in Godzilla 2014, where Godzilla is raiding the Golden Gate Bridge. He also kills some kids. This scene only lasts for 25 seconds. Now fast forwarding to the present timeline in 2015, 1 year after the events of Godzilla 2014, Godzilla is spotted sleeping in the Sahara Desert before waking up and leaving. This only lasted for 1 minute and 31 seconds. We see Godzilla for the last time in the last episode of Monarch of Monsters, making a badass entrance to the Hollow Earth just to fight the Ion Dragon. He fucks him up, yeets his ass out of existence, and then just basically calls it a day. This whole sequence ran for 1 minute and 17 seconds, thus giving us that total of 4 minutes and 18 seconds with Godzilla in this whole TV show alone in just 1 season. 4 years later, we get the biggest hype for a Godzilla sequel possible so far. That was Godzilla King of the Monsters in 2019. Fans wanted to see Godzilla more often on screen, so the bigger question is, how much more screen time did Godzilla get here compared to Godzilla 2014? That answer is 11 minutes and 43 seconds altogether. In other words, an extra minute and 12 seconds added to Godzilla's screen time. We get our first flashback to Godzilla 2014 where Godzilla is in San Francisco. This is only for a good 7 seconds. Now, fast forward to present time in 2019, we see Godzilla put on his intimidation display because he can sense King Ghidorah in Antarctica. So he pulls up to Antarctica to fight King Ghidorah, and of course Ghidorah acts like a bitch and flees the scene, which angers Godzilla. This sequence only lasts for 2 minutes and 16 seconds. Then we get a good shot of Godzilla underwater as he's going after King Ghidorah in Isla de Mar. This scene only lasts for 15 seconds. Eventually Godzilla catches Ghidorah lacking off guard in Isla de Mar, and they have a massive water fight. But unfortunately, the Ocean Destroyer injures Godzilla, which caused him to retreat back to his lair. That whole sequence only lasted for 33 seconds. Godzilla is spotted alive but heavily injured by Monarch, so Dr. Serizawa makes the ultimate sacrifice by super boosting Godzilla up to speed by using a nuke. This kills Dr. Serizawa. Godzilla rises from the ocean, has a staring contest with the humans, and then finally goes to Boston. This whole sequence only lasted for 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Godzilla finally pulls up in Boston to fight King Ghidorah, and they have one of the biggest fights in their lives. Eventually, Ghidorah drops Godzilla from the sky. Mothra sacrifices herself for Godzilla's own good. While Ghidorah tries to consume Godzilla's energy, he gets distracted by the orca. That whole sequence alone only lasted for 3 minutes and 54 seconds. While distracted, this gave Godzilla plenty of time to become thermiclear Godzilla. Thanks to the assist of the humans and Mothra, this gives Godzilla the advantage to literally fuck up Ghidorah once and for all. And right before things end, Godzilla turns around and there goes a couple more Titans coming together just to bow to Godzilla, even with Rodan included. And this is how Godzilla earns the title of being the king of the monsters. And that final sequence alone only lasts for 2 minutes and 19 seconds, giving us that total of 11 minutes and 43 seconds of Godzilla and King of the Monsters. 2 years later, in 2021, we get the biggest hype of all time, with Godzilla and Kong having a rematch after so many years, ever since 1962. So, with a screen time of 12 minutes and 28 seconds from Godzilla, let's dive into it. In the opening scene, we see Godzilla on his way to Pensacola, Florida, because he can sense Ghidorah's presence still. But little does he know that now Ghidorah is in the form of Mechagodzilla. With the destruction left behind, this paints Godzilla as a bad guy, and in this sequence, this only lasted for 56 seconds. Eventually, Godzilla crosses paths with Kong in the Tasman Sea. The Navy tries to stop him. Obviously, that's not going to work. And this is when round one of the biggest fights of the century starts to kick off. Eventually, Godzilla tries to drown Kong at one point, but the humans are too kind and basically save Kong's ass here. Godzilla gives Kong a fair warning before leaving to go back to tracking Mechagodzilla. I know Adam Wingard said that this first fight will last for about 15 minutes, but if we're just focusing from Godzilla's point of view, this whole thing alone only lasts for 3 minutes and 12 seconds. Godzilla starts to detect Mechagodzilla's presence over at Hong Kong and heads that way. This scene alone only lasts for 12 seconds. Godzilla eventually heads over to Hong Kong, drops a big ass hole to the Hollow Earth just to lure out Kong, and these two start fighting again for a round 2. It was all fun and games until Kong won that round. So that whole sequence only ran for 3 minutes and 21 seconds. Then we see Godzilla get back up for a round 3. That boy is pissed and is out for blood against that stupid ass ape. Kong tries to strangle Godzilla, but Godzilla has had enough. Eventually, puts Kong in his place, goes on full rampage mode, and literally fucks up Kong to the point where his heart literally stops beating. Godzilla at least respects the fact that, hey, at least Kong's not afraid to die. Other than that, Godzilla walks away from that shit. Round 3's sequence only lasted for 1 minute and 53 seconds. Now for the grand finale, Godzilla finally spots King Ghidorah in the body of Mechagodzilla. So these two end up fighting again, and guess what? Things go completely wrong. Godzilla is getting his ass handed to from Mechagodzilla. He's about to die, but thankfully, Kong saves the day and helps Godzilla defeat Mechagodzilla once and for all. This finale only ran for 2 minutes and 16 seconds. Godzilla calls a truce at the end of this movie. They go their separate ways, and with this wonderful ending of Godzilla just going back to the ocean, that ending sequence only lasted for 37 seconds, giving us that total of 12 minutes and 28 seconds. Then, 3 years later, we get to see Godzilla and Kong team up once again in 2024 against brand new enemies in the Monsterverse, and this happens in Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire. This movie takes place 3 years after the events of Godzilla vs. Kong, specifically in 2027, while Godzilla vs. Kong took place in 2024. This movie is more Kong-centric, but it still includes Godzilla in it. Godzilla was surprisingly in this movie for only 9 minutes and 45 seconds. In the opening scene, we see Godzilla wake up just to fight Scylla in Rome, Italy. Godzilla easily destroys Scylla. This sequence only lasted for 43 seconds. Then we see Godzilla asleep in the Rome Colosseum before he wakes up and heads to France, and this sequence only goes on for 54 seconds. But when Godzilla does finally go to France, he starts consuming radiation and then gets attacked by some drones and then uses a massive pulse to destroy these drones as a big flex. That sequence only goes on for 38 seconds. Godzilla is then spotted in the daytime leaving France, and this only goes on for 21 seconds. Godzilla swims to the Arctic Ocean to fight Tiamat because she has a power that can make Godzilla even more stronger than before. Godzilla ends up killing Tiamat, stealing her power, even sleeps in her lair to evolve, and this sequence goes on for 55 seconds. Eventually, Godzilla wakes up, and bam, he is now officially evolved Godzilla, and you only see this big flex for 37 seconds. Godzilla crosses paths with Kong once again after 3 years, only because Kong needs his help because there is another world-ending threat down in the Hollow Earth. But Godzilla doesn't give a fuck and ends up fighting once again with Kong. And if it wasn't for Mothra saving Kong's ass at the end, Kong would have been dead. Now, Godzilla, Kong, and Mothra team up together to stop the new world-ending threat. That whole sequence ran for 2 minutes and 52 seconds. Godzilla, Kong, and Mothra enter the Hollow Earth, and now Godzilla fights against Shimu. The fight doesn't last too long, given the low gravity, so this causes all of them to fall back to the ground except for Shimu, Godzilla, Kong, and Scar King. Those four end up going to Rio, so that sequence alone only lasted for 51 seconds. Now this is where shit starts to get real. Godzilla and Kong are not having it, so these two work together to stop them once and for all. Godzilla and Kong both jump Scar King for a little bit. With the world back in good hands, this sequence only lasted for 1 minute and 42 seconds. And this movie ends off with Godzilla going back to the Rome Colosseum to go back to sleep, and that's really it. That's all he just does. He just sleeps. And that scene only lasted for 13 seconds, giving us that total of 9 minutes and 45 seconds of Godzilla and Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire.
So what this tells us as Godzilla fans is that Godzilla had the weakest amount of screen time in Monarch Legacy of Monsters for a TV show, but in terms of movie-wise, Godzilla had the weakest amount of screen time in Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire. This also means that Godzilla had the most amount of screen time in Godzilla King of the Monsters and in Godzilla vs. Kong, which is a huge improvement from Godzilla 2014. But that's interesting that Godzilla had less screen time in GXK compared to Godzilla 2014, so really at this point, hopefully has more screen time in the next upcoming film. So overall, Godzilla was in the Monsterverse for a total of 48 minutes and 46 seconds. That's actually not bad at all. Other than that, I hope this video was worth everybody's time. If you guys want to also see more of these type of videos of other kaijus, or even going back as far as like the Showa era of Godzilla or whatever, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you love Godzilla, and I'll see you guys the next time. Peace!